This is take two of the post lift talk. Oh my god, I had to restart due to certain circumstances. Y'all have no idea. I bumped my head into the door handle so fucking hard. I was gonna leave a mean bump. And then I dropped my phone 20 seconds ago. Shit is not going my way. But as I was saying in the first take, that this new split I mentioned is working pretty decent. I just started it. Doesn't matter that I hit back and buys 2 days ago and I hit them again earlier. Sometimes when you're switching up splits, you kind of have to do what you gotta do to set up a new routine and all with due time. So I have noticed that a lot of people have trouble with how should I say this, with sticking with a certain training routine in their second or third years of lifting. Because, well, the first year is, well, you just started. Rarely ever anyone has shit figured out in the first year. You're just learning the basics. So, I mean, you you barely know shit. But then, I mean, once you kind of understand like what exercises work, how many sets per session, how many sessions a week, like the intensity of things, blah blah blah. Well, apparently some people learn very slowly. It's not a bad thing. It's just it's a lot of confusion. But I mean, for me, yeah, that first year really feels like a waste of time, even though I was learning. But I mainly learned a lot, and like at the start of my second year, that was different. That was just watching tons of like videos, just learning a lot and trying things out. And now the third year was just using all of that and just just consistently going hard as fuck every session. And I'll tell you, um, this is my fourth year actually. Yeah, yeah, technically my fourth year. Full 4 years will be in September 2026, right? So I have some experience now in terms of the years plus the amount of knowledge that I have. Not like academical by any means, but just the overall. Uh, I am getting into that intermediate part of lifting where you got experience and not like a veteran to like be advanced, but I can now truly teach newcomers and discuss with other gym goers, right? So, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's an easy fix to anybody's program. Look, no matter how many studies, meta analysis you read, how many of them come up, how many videos you watch, what kind of exercises you do. Only two things in terms of training matter. First is how hard you go. I mean, if you go every set with like 5 reps in reserve, well, come on. But if you go 1 to 2, I mean, for me, what works best is 0 reps in reserve, which means I lift until I just cannot complete a full rep, and then sometimes I would just get that extra partial to really make sure that I cannot. If you do that, you got one thing done, set. If you do that every lift, you're good. But as a new comer, sure, if you're lifting hard twice a week, even once, and your split is okay, it's not good, it's not horrible either, right? You're gonna make gains, but as you go on, you would hope that in at least your second year, or fucking third for some people, you would hope to have things set in place so you can follow that from then on and just make gains forever, right? So once you have the training hard part down, you need to be consistent. So what that means is, if you hit every muscle, let's say twice a week, in some splits you would hit that like, I don't know, 1.7 times a week. That's also fine, you know it, if you have enough volume and intensity, things work. Whatever. If you add consistency, so let's say you're following a push pull legs, right? 3 days training one off, so that's 6 times a week, maybe 5 if you take an extra day off. If you're like if you're doing like full body, you can do let's see, lift, rest, lift, rest, lift, rest, lift, and continue to that. So that's what, 4 a week, something, right? And from then you can see what works best, because if you show up, let's say 5 days in a row first week, and then 4 next week, then you skip on the third, and then you work out like twice and then skip again, that's not consistent. And whatever your routine is, you're not gonna sustain it for long, because if you're not sustaining it now, so, well, you're just ending up yourself for a failure. What consistency means is some sort of a pattern that repeats itself consistently. Now, technically, working out once a month is some sort of a consistency, but in the context of making consistent progress, that is not consistent. I think that's obvious, right? But if you work out, let's say, uh, 21 days out of 30, right? That is consistency, which means that on a weekly basis, you hit a certain amount of workouts and a certain amount of rest days. That is consistency. So if you just train hard and be consistent with it, you're gonna make progress. Well, then, of course, after that, you can't just move on. You need to understand that diet is the most important thing of this, really. Um, then sleep, recovery, but food. You gotta get enough protein. But that's not what I'm gonna talk about today. Um, my point is, if you have those two things on lock, it doesn't really matter what exercises you do. Yeah, some might have a slight edge over the other, over some weird studies of like, I don't know, I don't know, but like I said, these two things matter the most. You can fact check me if you want. I promise that's how it is, and it always has been, and it always will be. So, like I said, if you have those two things down, no matter what exercises, right, you're just gonna make progress. No matter the fucking split, you're gonna make progress. It's a fact. And people don't really think about it. They say they understand it, but they don't put that into action, which means that they constantly are changing up their program. They're constantly changing up the exercises, but their focus is not on the training hard part. And that just sets you up for failure easily, man. That's not a healthy thing, a way of thinking. Now, of course, is it fine to change things up every here and there? Sure. Of course, I do that, of course, too. A lot of people do that, but it's not necessary. You have to have a base set routine and follow that for a prolonged period of time. And then you can maybe add some things or change things as you want. Because then at least you have a base set routine that if that change doesn't work or doesn't feel good, you can just still work out and have the basics for doing the most of the work regardless. And when you look at it from that way, a question comes up that how do people not understand? Well, I mean, we kind of have to blame social media, especially TikTok, because science-based lifting community has lost its damn mind and it is beyond saving. Even though training hard and being consistent is the most science-based thing you can do for weightlifting. I don't know how people forget that. Like nowadays, we have weird skinny motherfuckers who just make a weird, the most unstable cable fly set up and call that like the exercise that vaults the bench press. It's just not how it works, and people fall for it. But the truth is, if those people who do that and believe that keep arguing, if you would put them against an actual knowledgeable person like, well, TNF, Jeff Nipper, I don't care. You put them and make him talk for like 2 minutes. The guy who overthinks and over analyzes things will get absolutely fried by those who know what they're doing because they have researched it enough and they have enough experience to show that most studies or whatever really don't change much, if anything. So there's really, the gym is not complicated. Once you learn how to train every muscle, you just continue to do that and you're gonna make progress. Unless, of course, your recovery sucks and your diet sucks. But that's another thing I won't talk about. And that's it. I mean, I'm guilty of that. Kind of. I had a period of time where I was like switching up exercises, trying to really see what I feel better, what just makes sense for my split the most. Most of that was a waste of time because I just ended up sticking with that with most exercises that I was already doing and making progress on. But oh well, I hope you don't have to do that. At least not anymore if you are. But yeah, that's that. Tomorrow I'll try to do chest, tries, and shoulders uh, earlier, just because I think I'm gonna have to leave for New Year's Eve at my cousin's. So I might post something on TikTok, IG, and Shorts. Not like you watch them, but I'll, I'll just say that. I probably will. Probably won't actually, but who knows. Yeah, that's that. Tomorrow's chest, tries, and shoulders. And I'll see you in 2026, probably. Maybe. Or tomorrow. I don't know.